internet has once again permitted us to do our thing. Sometimes you never know. YouTube, are you awake? YouTube always wakes up the slowest. Always waking up the slowest. Oh, yeah, it went live right when I scratched my face. Perfect. Good job. That's the best time. It's because there's a cat in my lap, as there often is. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron. It's Friday. You guys know what that means. That means we have a guest. We always have a guest on Fridays. And I'm really excited about this guest. I got to meet her in person last weekend. How cool is that? She is running for Congress in Oregon's 1st District, and she's Amanda Siebe. Amanda, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, Ron. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
Oh, well, good to see you. Nice meeting you in person. That's always fun. So you're running for Oregon's 1st District, which you told me off mic here before we went live. So that covers the west side of Portland, as well as some of the area going down to the coast. So it's a pretty big district. Is that?
It is. It's okay. A big, diverse district. It goes all the way out to the coast, and then it goes south to all the way down to McMinnville. So it's a pretty big, diverse district. Not only do we have downtown Portland, but we have a lot of small family farms. So.
Okay. So you mentioned McMinimans. You mentioned the area, but when I was just in Portland this past weekend, I mentioned that when I used to live in the Northwest, I loved all the McMiniman pubs. Like I used to love going to those. Like they would take these like sort of like non-traditional building or non-traditional for a restaurant, and they would turn something into a restaurant, like a bus or like a school that's not being used anymore.
Right.
And I always thought that was so cool. Somebody told me there's been a bunch of labor disputes with that company, though. Do you know anything about that? Is that true?
That's not something I've heard a lot about. That's something I'm definitely going to look into. I actually know the McMinimans family, so
really,
I do.
I hope it was just random hearsay. Like I'm not trying to spread a rumor.
It's definitely something I want to look into and I want to find out about, because if that's true, we've got to make sure that our workers are protected.
Totally. I mean, I hope it's not like again, it's like just hearsay. I'm not saying I know that or I don't know that. I'm just saying like I mentioned how much I love those places, and somebody was like labor disputes. I'm like, really? That's a bummer to hear. But yeah, I guess. To start it super inside Northwest baseball. But so what made you want to get involved with electoral politics?
Well, I've always really enjoyed politics growing up. I really wanted to be a politician, but I grew up in a family that believed that the closest that we should get to politics is as a politician's wife. So, right.
Oh man, really? Like your parents said that to you?
Yep. I mean, when Hillary Clinton was running for the New York Senate, that was a big thing in my house. And so I remember, when she got into Congress and everything, they're like, oh, the only reason she could do it was because of her name and her money. So it was a big thing. And then when Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez proved it was possible, I knew I had a chance,
Mm-hmm.
The reason I decided to run for this office in particular is Susan Bonamici's stance is on disability rights. I mean, we were trying really, really hard to reach out to her and get her to update her policy and her platform and to take on issues. I mean, last year she did a deep dive into the opioid epidemic, and chronic pain patients really reached out to her and tried to get her to understand what was going on from our point of view. And she refused to listen. Instead, she advocated for reducing our medications and doing strict reductions of opiates.
So she is your opponent.
Yes.
And we'll start with what you mentioned specifically, and then we'll get into like broader platform. But so you said disability rights, and I know that that's a big issue for you.
Yes.
So what is she getting wrong there? Like what is she not seeing?
The only time she addresses the issue, it's in regards to senior citizens and disabled vets. And while those are both very, very important and valued members of our community, it's so much bigger and more diverse than that. And we are leaving people behind. It's not good enough that when people ask, what have you done on disability rights? She points to a senior citizens bill to, improve things for senior citizens. There are real changes that need to be made. Our ADA was, created in 1990. And since then, it really hasn't been updated. We need to make sure that we go through and update these things, because a majority of our country is still inaccessible to those with disabilities.
So what are some things that you are looking to do? Like, what are some specific like on that topic? Like, what are some important additions that need to be made?
I mean, to the ADA in particular, we need to move to a stair-free society. We need to make sure that ramps are actually able to, we can move a wheelchair up them, because some of the ramps are steep. It's hard walking up them. Trying to get up one of those ramps and then open a door at the top is incredibly difficult. I mean, it is incredibly hard to get around. We need to make sure that all transportation and transit has ramps. You can't even get onto the trains in some areas because there are no ramps onto trains or onto buses. I mean, then when people have those, when they actually do have those services, a lot of the employees aren't trained on how to use them. So they don't understand and they can't use them, which means, so we need to make sure that there are proper resources, that there's proper education, and that Social Security and disability and supplemental social income are moved to a living wage program. We have 554,000 homeless people in our country, and of them, 40% are disabled and 30% are over the age of 65. Just by making Social Security, supplemental social income, and Social Security disability a living wage program, we would be able to not only increase the quality of life for 81 million people, but we'd reduce our homelessness rate by over half. I mean, these are just common sense programs, but instead, Portland last year in particular spent over $70 million for our 3,600 people living on our streets, in our shelters and temporary housing, and they fixed nothing. That was enough to give each one of them $19,000, and they fixed nothing. We need to start investing in people instead of programs, and that's what I plan to do.
So you think that like the funds are sort of just being misallocated, like the funds are there, there's just like we're not going about it the right way. I know that. Well, I mean, I think housing is still like the biggest thing. We just haven't figured out a way to like make it go the right way. I mean, like I looked into what Finland's doing, and they have like a housing first approach, which has allowed them to like pretty much eliminate homelessness more or less. Right. But like, it's a little bit more than like, hey, here's a house, have fun, you can stay there. There's also like a rehabilitation built in there too. So it's like, all right, start with a roof over somebody's head and food in their belly, because without that, you can do nothing. Mm-hmm. But then we're gonna try to get you, rehabilitated and stuff like that, and we're gonna try to get a society that works for you and what have you. So
right. I mean, one of the issues that we have now is that Medicare gap. I mean, or Medicaid gap, when we have enough, or we have just enough that we qualify for Medicaid, but the moment that we make any more than that, we lose all those Medicaid benefits, but we still can't pay for better care. So same thing happens with food stamps. You have you qualify for food stamps up to a certain point, but the moment you make any more than that, they start punishing you and taking away those benefits and never let you get ahead. And it's time to change the way we do these programs to actually let families experience what it means to do more than survive. We need to actually thrive and maintain that quality of life.
So you are a democratic socialist.
Yes.
So what are kind of like your big three issues? If you had to throw three at me, where it's like, this is what I want to get done in the first district, like what are those top three?
Medicare for all, Green New Deal, federal housing, or federal jobs guarantee.
All right. Okay. So how would that, I mean, Medicare for all, the Green New Deal, when you're going door to door, how do you kind of like communicate the sort of local benefit of that? I mean, obviously, Medicare for all, it's like we all have healthcare, it's more affordable and stuff like that. But if people are like, look, Green New Deal sounds good, but we're here in Oregon, we're doing our part already. All right. I'm having trouble paying my rent. What are you going to do for me? How do you kind of make those connections locally? Mm-hmm. What do you say to that hypothetical person?
But we're not doing enough here. We're not. I mean, Oregon pretends to be a really progressive, wonderful state in a lot of ways, but we're not doing all we can. We're not doing enough to protect our forests and stop the logging that's happening. We're not doing enough to change the way we eat and produce our food and support our small farms. We're not doing enough to, you change the electricity and the type of electricity that we're using. Here we have the Bonneville Dam, which produces a lot of wonderful hydroelectricity, but that we need to do better across the country. I mean, taking those programs that we have started here and we've, tried to get implemented, the bottle deposit bill, that was a huge one. And that started to go to other states. We need to take that nationwide to start getting people recycling and giving people the benefit of having, that extra little bit of change in your pockets after, it creates a little bit of a job here. It does provide for those that need that extra little bit of income.
So when someone says like, oh, well, how does this all benefit me personally? Like what's your response to that?
How does it not? Our air, our water, our food are all becoming toxic. Disability is becoming it's not a rarity. It's becoming the status quo. We need to do better. We don't have healthcare. We don't have clean water, clean air. We need so much better than we have. And accepting this, well, we don't have the money to pay for it, isn't true. We need to put the money that we have in the proper places to ensure that everybody has the ability to live a safe, healthy life.
Mm-hmm. How have you been received so far? Like, what has the campaign trail been like? I know your election's in May, so in comparison, it is coming up. So how have things been going so far?
It's been going really, really well. I was actually really, really surprised. I wasn't expecting a lot of people to receive me well with the wheelchair. That becomes kind of an obstacle because people don't see those of us with disabilities often. They really don't interact with us. So I was expecting the kind of, oh, sure, pat on the head, you're running for Congress. Great job. And I did at the beginning really get a lot of that. But the moment my name started getting out there more, I was really taken as a serious candidate. And that's what we need. And that's how it's been received. And I'm really, really excited to take it and get in past the primaries. So,
do you have any like debates scheduled with your opponent, or what is kind of the anatomy of the situation in Oregon? Because I know every state's different. So, like, how exactly, like, what is your path exactly?
We are on the ballot. We are pushing Bonamici to have debates. We are hoping to get her to come to the district, come to an area that is accessible to all people in the district, and to have an honest, candid debate and discussion with our constituents, because they need to hear from her and they need to hear from us to see what's going on, because there are so many things that she says she supports, but then when you look at her finances and her voting record and everything, she doesn't. And we deserve answers and we deserve a choice.
So is she basically a run-of-the-mill corporate Democrat, or?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
She has over $1 million in her reelection fund right now, and less than 7% of it come from small donations. So.
Okay. Is the district kind of wary of her, or does she have a lot of people that are just passively on board with her? Like, because usually you kind of see one or the other. You either see like, well, I think they're doing good and they're Democrats, so okay. Or you see like, yes, we're so tired of this person. I don't even know why there's a D next to their name because they're absolutely ridiculous. And it's because this party's been bought out by special interests. I'm yearning for an alternative.
Right. And that's kind of what we're having here is people are really, really tired of it. People are really tired of not knowing where she stands. I mean, she has more loyalty to Nike and Intel than she does to the average Americans here in our district. So we need better representation, and we're desperate for it. That's why I'm running.
So I got to ask you a personal question here. Now that you're a serious candidate and you're on the ballot, did you say, hey, mom and dad, what now?
I didn't know. Tensions are a little hard with my family.
All right, you can go into detail if you want to, but you don't have to.
No, it's just, I mean, when my brother registered Democrat, the family kind of disowned him. And so me.
Oh, wow. So they're
Yeah.
they're like super. So is your family like super right wing?
Oh, yes. I mean, I grew up listening to the Fox News spin. So the moment I could get out and do something different, it was hallelujah.
Are you from Portland originally, or are you from?
I am. I'm from
Okay.
Beaverton, which is right outside of Portland. So
I mean, Oregon is like, you know how like they say like, oh, the United States could be 4 different countries, like just because of how different people are as far as like their ideology and where they're at and stuff like that on the spectrum politically and what have you. Oregon could be 4 different countries. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, I mean, I'll say this, and like, I don't know if this is in your district, so you don't have to, but and I'll be vague. I won't name the town, but there's only been one time in my life where I genuinely felt really uncomfortable being in and look, I'm a white male. There's only been one time in my life where even as a white guy, I was feeling a little uncomfortable. Like, I do not fit in here. And this is a weird, hostile place. And it was Southern Oregon. It was somewhere in Southern Oregon where it's just like, I mean, it is straight up. They will be open about the fact like this is a Klan town. And like, I know a comedian friend of mine because, you know, like when I started out on the road, I was living in Seattle. Like when I started. So the Northwest was my stomping ground. And I remember a comedian told this story. He was his name's Travis, very funny guy, black guy. And he was telling this story where he's just like, yeah, I was on the phone with my friend telling him I was going to, you know, the same town in Oregon I'm talking about. And he goes, and my friend goes, hey, man, be careful. That's a Klan town. And I misheard him. And I thought he said, hey, man, be careful. That's a clam town. And I guess he thought I didn't like seafood, but I actually do. I don't know where he had this misunderstanding with me. So Travis Simmons, he was going around looking for like an ideal bowl of clam chowder, thinking that was what he's like. I mean, I guess the best clam chowder's here. I'm excited. and he never found that perfect bowl of clam chowder. But real quick, he realized how he
should go to Moe's. He should definitely go to Moe's.
All right. I remember like Duke's was a big thing up in Seattle, but this is Seattle. I don't know what Oregon's story is. And this is going back a minute because I've been gone for a while. But anyway, yeah. So that's like the only time. Yeah. And then on the other side of it, you have a place like Eugene, which is like, I really feel like, and maybe you agree, maybe you disagree, but I really feel like there really are no progressive places in the United States necessarily. Like, but it's like some of the ones where it's like as close as we get are
where
places
more progressive people congregate.
Right. Like you have Eugene, Oregon, you have, you know, like Portland to an extent. And I feel like in a place like Eugene or like in Olympia, Washington, or like college towns in general, it's a little bit easier to actually have what is in fact a progressive city because you're smaller and corporate interests aren't targeting you as hard. You know, so it's really hard in a city. Like people don't realize that, where it's just like, yeah, San Francisco is not some progressive utopia because there's so much big money interest there. But Portland is not some progressive utopia because there's so much big money interest there. Same with Seattle, same with Los Angeles. I mean, absolutely Los Angeles. You know, you have more progressive minded people generally, sure. And you can have, you know, conversations in public that you might not be able to have in certain parts of the Midwest or Southern Oregon for that matter. But it's not like you're necessarily living in a progressive utopia. I live in California. We couldn't get rent control through, and we couldn't get a public bank through. So, you know, I mean, we've moved forward on that now, but it lost in the ballot box in 2018. So.
Yeah, it's amazing how that works, right? We get plugged as these super progressive areas with these super progressive leaders, and we just can't back it up a lot of the times, you know? And that's what it comes down to, is our representation is funded not by the people, but by these corporations, which don't care what the people want. The people are wonderful. The people are amazing, usually progressive, caring people. But at least in my district, I mean, I'm sure the town that I'm pretty sure I know exactly which town you're talking about. but which is not in my district. I'm proud to say, not in my district. But no.
I mean, I don't mind saying it, but I don't want to like, you know, I mean, it rhymes with sans last. I don't know, like, if that's a hint.
Yeah.
But so you have mentioned on social media and your website that you want to be the 5th member of the squad, and you would be the first disabled member of the squad. And I think that's great because the squad needs an odd number. They can't, because like they need like to have like a majority sometimes where it's like, okay, well, some of the squad feels this way, some feels that way. It'd be nice if it's like, well, the squad's 3-2 or 2-3 on whatever given issue. So they need that 5th member. Well,
not just that, but I mean, these are strong minority women who are first and only in the Congress, and coming in as a disabled woman, I may not have brown skin, I may not be Latina, but coming with a disability, we are a minority community too, you know, and we deserve that same representation and respect. We're still fighting for our rights. You know, we were left behind during the fight for civil rights. We were left behind during the fight for LGBTQ rights. You know, it's time for us to get our moment too. And it's time for disability rights to be taken as a serious issue in the 2020 election.
Right on. Well, so where can people go to learn more about you, learn more about your campaign, and see how they can get involved?
www.siebe2020.com.
Siebe2020.com. That is spelled SIEBE 2020.com. There is a link in the description over on the YouTube. There is a link to Amanda's campaign where you can learn more. You can volunteer, I'd imagine. You can phone bank. You can do your thing. Yeah, Amanda, the election is in May
19th.
May 19th. So Portland. I know a lot of you are in Portland. I saw some of you over the weekend, and I'll be seeing you again in April, which I can't wait for that. And you'll be seeing Amanda in April. She will be there, and she will be tabling at the event. So you can meet her in person. And that's awesome because that'll be right before. That's pretty much a couple weeks before. I could say I planned that intentionally, but that would be a lie. I didn't know any of that stuff. But I didn't know it was going to happen today. So I can't take the credit there. But that is awesome that the timing works out good. So, yeah, thank you so much. And please keep in touch if there's anything I can do to help. And I will see you in April. And for everybody else out there in Portland and elsewhere, Siebe2020.com. And for everyone in Portland, come meet Amanda on April 25th and come see the Progressive Comedy Tour. It's going to be a fun time, and see how you can get involved. Amanda, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Ron.